Hello, welcome to the Team SNG tutorial. Today we are continuing our Learn to Play with Dad series, and we are going to be continuing with side decking and extra deck summoning mechanics. While I got your attention, I'd like to ask you guys, do leave us a like, leave us a comment, and leave us a subscribe. I'd also like to point out that this was originally filmed during Master Rule 4, and there have been some changes into Master Rule 5. I do make notes on the video at any point where there is a mistake in the sense of cards being summoned to the extra monster zone rather than the main monster zone.
All match one another in a deck.
Right, yeah, a lot of them are going to sort of say, oh, this spell works with these monsters and these traps work with these monsters.
But what I don't understand,
yeah?
is how do you know what your opponent's going to have?
You don't.
And what spells and traps work against him?
You don't. So that is a good question. That is a great question. So how to react to your opponent, right? The way a match is set up, as you and me talked about earlier today, is that you have 3 matches in a game.
Yeah.
Right? It's best out of 3.
Yeah.
After the first match is over, you can access what is called your side deck. And that's a whole other thing. I wasn't originally going to cover it, but seeing as you've asked the question, I will. My side deck for my Mech Knight Crusader deck, this is my favorite, is this. It is 15 cards. That is my side deck.
Right.
They are regular cards that you can switch in and out of the main deck. So after the first round, I can see what my opponent's playing and I can go, the way to counter it, he's using lots of spells and traps.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Twin Twisters because that destroys 2 spells and traps. I'll add them into my deck. He's also playing with machines. I'll use System Down as well because that gets rid of all the machine type cards.
Right. Okay.
Right?
And you that is part of what you declare.
That is, you don't tell them what you're changing in and out. You don't have to tell your opponent what you're putting in.
Okay.
You don't even have to tell them how many cards you're switching out.
Right.
But if I do this and I switch out 4, I have to take 4 cards out of the main deck.
Sure.
So that the main deck is exactly the same size.
Yeah.
But I do not need to tell my opponent what I'm putting in. I do not need to tell my opponent what I'm taking out.
Right.
I do not even need to tell them I'm taking in 4. I'm changing 4 out. You don't have to tell them anything.
Yeah.
You don't even have to tell them if they're going to be going first or if you're going to be going first until this is all done.
Right. Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So you don't know what your opponent's playing. You kind of just have to hope that your deck can handle whatever it is they're playing game 1 and hope that you have the right thing to side in game 2.
Yeah.
Not
And does everyone have...
Everyone can do it. Not everyone does it. A lot of players don't bother with the side deck. They kind of go, if I'm not going to beat them game 1, I'm not going to beat them with game 2. But
oh, really?
yeah, a lot of people don't, especially when they're beginning out. When a lot of players are starting out, because they don't know what to put in the side deck.
They might not have that many cards either, I suppose, to be able to do it.
Not so much that. I mean, it's easy enough to get lots of cards really easy. That's not the problem. It really is sort of the whole siding. Siding is quite you do it at a competitive level, but if you don't do it at a competitive level, then a lot of people... It's not necessary. Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to talk about the extra deck.
Okay.
In the extra deck, there are 4 different types of cards. 4 different categories of cards.
Oh, right.
Okay? Now, you haven't got copies of these 4 because I only have 1 copy of each of these. So, you're going to have to share with me.
Okay.
In the extra deck, we have fusion monsters.
Right.
Fusion monsters have what color as their background? Oh, no, I did. Well,
blue or green? I don't, I'm colourblind.
That's a fair point. It's purple.
Oh, right.
Fusion
I can't see it either. Okay.
Fusion monsters are purple.
Purple. Yeah.
Here, this might be an easier fusion monster for you to look at, actually. Here, try that one.
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
So that's a purple. It's a purple fusion monster.
Yeah.
Fusion monsters, you can tell are fusion because they're purple and because they say fusion.
Right.
Right? So you're looking at Ojama Knight. This is Ojama King. The monster will tell you what cards are required to bring it out.
Okay.
So if you see just underneath Beast Fusion Effect, yours says...
Beast Fusion Effect.
Underneath it.
Oh, underneath that. Ojama monster, Ojama monster.
So an Ojama monster, one Ojama monster plus one Ojama monster.
Oh, is that plus? Oh,
Yes.
yeah, it is. Okay.
So that means any 2 Ojama monsters can be used to make this.
Oh, you need 2 cards.
Right, because you need 2 Ojamas. You need one Ojama monster
okay.
plus one Ojama monster.
Oh, it doesn't matter which Ojama.
Doesn't matter which one. Now, in the case of Ojama King, it's different. It needs to be Ojama Green, Ojama Yellow, and Ojama Black.
Oh, right.
So he needs 3.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay?
And, all right. And specific ones.
Specific, and he needs specific ones, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Now, you do have another cheat pile. There's a reason for it. This is a really important card. This is...
I've got that one.
Yeah, I know you do.
All right.
What kind of card is it? First of all.
It's a spell card.
Okay.
And just that ordinary one.
It's just an ordinary spell card. Absolutely right. So it is a Polymerization. Polymerization is the spell card that is used most commonly to bring out fusion monsters.
Oh, right. Okay, this guy I've got in my hand.
The guy you got in your hand, exactly. So, in the case of this, I would need to have Ojama Green, Ojama Yellow, and Ojama Black, either in my hand or on the field.
Right.
Then I would need to activate Polymerization
Okay, yeah, go on.
to bring him from the extra deck to the extra monster zone.
Okay.
He will never be summoned here, 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 or here, unless other circumstances are met, which we'll talk about when...
Might never get to. But...
Well, we will. We'll get there. But he would be summoned here.
Right, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And he can be summoned in attack or defense.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Alright. So that's a fusion monster. That's how you bring them out. You need a spell card. Now, Polymerization isn't the only fusion spell. There are other spells, other cards that do it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some cards that are specific, as you say. A lot of cards are grouped together by like Mech Knight cards are all going to be grouped together. Crusadia cards are all going to be... So if there was a Crusadia or a Mech Knight fusion monster, there might be Mech Knight Fusion, which would then be used in place of Polymerization. But Polymerization is the generic one that can be used for anything. So that's sort of... That's why I use that as our example card.
All right.
Alright. Now we're going to talk about Synchros. We're getting a bit more complicated here. The extra deck is a bit more complicated.
Okay.
Synchros are what color?
That's one.
No, you're not looking at a Synchro. I've only got one copy of this guy.
Oh.
Synchros.
I can't see. Oh, that's like,
Let's see if I've got another Synchro kicking around. I know where I'll have one. I'll have one here. Here, you can take a look at that one.
okay.
Or actually, maybe this one will be easier for you to look at. So take a look at him. So he's a Synchro.
Mm-hmm.
What color is he? His border?
Like
It's white.
yeah, it looks like it's
white.
It's an off-white. Yeah.
It is an off-white, but it's white.
Okay.
Long story short, it's white.
Okay.
So, Synchros are white. They require a monster that is classified as a tuner, which is, it will say here. So you have this guy in your little cheat pile if you want to take a look at him yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
What did I do? Is that?
There you go.
All right.
So you need a tuner,
Right.
and you'll need a non-tuner. So any other monster.
What do you mean, any other monster?
So he's a tuner, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Metaphys Ragnarok is your tuner.
Right.
Metaphys Decoy Dragon isn't a tuner.
So does it have to be
Metaphys. No.
Any
there-
dragon. Any dragon.
It doesn't have to be a dragon even. It can be anything. It can be, for instance, I've got some zombies here. We've got some zombies. We're pulling out the zombie deck. Check out the profile on the channel, guys. This is also a tuner because it says tuner.
Okay.
This is a non-tuner because it doesn't say tuner.
So whatever. But would you mix those up in one deck?
Yes. Yes,
Oh, right.
because
I see.
because to bring out a synchro, you need a tuner and a non-tuner.
Right.
Okay? The way that synchro summoning happens, or it's called synchro summoning, is that if you have a tuner and a non-tuner whose levels exactly equal,
Gosh.
the level of the synchro monster you want to bring out, you can send both the tuner and non-tuner to the grave to special summon from the extra deck your synchro.
But when you're setting the deck up, surely that's what you would do, wouldn't you?
You would design it so that you could bring the guys out really easily.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, right.
Definitely.
I mean, you wouldn't have odd strength ones.
Oh,
that would make it difficult to get him out.
No, exactly. You wouldn't. So in my Metaphys deck, I've got him. He's the only tuner I run in the Metaphys deck.
Right.
The Metaphys deck doesn't actually require the extra deck at all. It's just a nice thing to have.
Right.
But he works in tandem specifically with Decoy Dragon to bring him out.
Right.
It's the only reason that I run. Well, it's not the only reason, but it's the reason I run them like this is so that I can bring out him.
Right. Okay.
All right. So you have a tuner, a non-tuner. Both of them are on the field. They can't be in the hand. They have to be on the field.
Right.
You send both of them off to the grave to special summon out.
Okay.
Your synchro.
When they're sitting here, you don't have to bring him out until you're ready to.
You don't have to bring him out at all.
You just do it to frighten the enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's your way of scaring the enemy. Because, as I say, a lot of the big monsters that are difficult to deal with live in the extra deck. They don't live in the main deck. Most main decks don't have a monster that people are sort of going, ooh, not a fan of that.
Yeah, okay.
The extra deck is where those monsters live.
Right.
And they're more difficult to bring out because you have to meet these sort of requirements that are more difficult to meet.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, that is Synchro Summoning.
Okay.
Any questions about it?
Right.
You can ask him if you've got them.
No, I mean, you know.
It's, yeah, okay. So, I'm going to get a bit more complicated now. This is, by the way, I'm doing this in the order that these came out. So Fusion Summoning was the first thing we ever had. And then they developed Synchro Summoning.
Okay.
And then after Synchro Summoning, they made Xyz Summoning. So, Xyz Summoning, it's an Xyz because it says Xyz, XYZ. Right? Xyz Summoning will, again, much like a Synchro monster and a Fusion monster, will tell you the materials required on it, right here. Next, underneath the name, it says 2 level 8 monsters. So 2 level 8s, it's big,
Yeah, it's
right?
pretty
It's a pretty big thing. So I have 2 level 8s here.
Right.
You have a copy of Indigo Eclipse in your hand if you want to. I think you do. You should do. After, yeah, there you go.
All right.
So you've got a copy in hand just so you can sort of.
We use those, haven't we?
Yeah, but just so you can sort of visualize a bit better.
Yeah.
So you have 2 level 8s. You have them both on the field. You are now going to do what's called overlaying, which is you put them like this, and then you put him on top.
Right.
Now there's a difference. Take a look at this card, and take a look at this card. Can you tell me something different about the stars?
What are these? These are like little balls with stars, and these are just stars.
No, they are little balls with stars. They're just hard to see.
Oh, but the other side.
Yes, that is because Xyz monsters don't have levels. They have ranks.
Oh right, okay. So
Now,
it's like general.
That terminology is a bit. That terminology can be important because there are some things that say any monster with a level has this happen to it, or any monster with a rank has this happen to it, and those are sort of specifically designed to. Because level and rank are 2 different things.
Oh, okay.
And so, you overlay 2 level 8s to make a rank 8.
All right.
Now, some things will say, oh, it requires 3 level 8s, and so you'd need 3, overlay all 3 to make it. Now, the way that a lot of effects work for Xyz monsters are that you are going to activate their effect, you have to detach a material from him. Which means his effect can only go off twice.
Oh, I see. So each time you use it, the other card
His effect,
disappears.
one of the cards from underneath him disappears.
And then he's finished.
And once he can stay on the field
Yeah.
when he has no more cards, but he can't use his effect anymore.
So what's the point? He's just taking up space.
Well, at that point, he is taking up space. But he also is kind of big. He's got 3,000 attack, so you might want him around because of that.
as well.
You might want him around because of that.
Okay, so you're knocking points off or something.
You want to knock points off of your opponent. Your opponent starts with 8,000. You want to get that down to 0 before they get yours to 0.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's an XEs. Now we're going to talk about link summoning, and this is the latest thing. This is a link monster. You haven't got a copy of him, but you do have copies of different link monsters in your hand, because link monsters can do something called link climbing, which we'll have to talk about. Link monsters have a few things different about them. First of all, they have no stars. They don't have a level.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Like that one.
That one, yeah, that's a link monster. Okay. Just for all you folks at home, he's looking at Crusader Mages, which is this one here.
Right.
So they don't have stars. That's the first thing. They also don't have defense.
No. Just some attack.
Right. They can
But
only
they link.
They're called
link
that is their rating. That is what is called the link rating.
All right. Okay.
The other thing is, if you look around the border of the image, of the actual picture of a link monster, you will see 8 arrows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
One of them, in the case of Crusader Mages, is red.
Yep.
He is a link 1. So he has 1 red arrow.
Okay.
A link 2 will have 2. A link 3 will have 3. And a link 4 will have 4.
Right.
So Crusader Echomax is a link 4, or sorry, Crusader Avermax is a link 4, and he has 4 arrows.
Yeah, yeah.
Now these arrows are really important. If a link monster is special summoned, the zones that they point to can be used to special summon monsters from the extra deck. So we talked about how
they do it on their own. Without,
No. The cost still needs to be met, but we talked about how earlier the fusion monster has to be played here. Or the synchro monster has to be played here. Or the Xyz monster has to be played here.
Sure.
If I have Crusader Avermax, who points to this zone and this zone, the fusion monster can now be summoned here. Or here.
Okay.
Because he has opened up these zones by pointing to them.
What's the advantage of that?
You can have multiple monsters from the extra deck, which are the big scary ones your opponent might be concerned about. I could have a field that looks like this, because he's made these 2 zones. If I don't have him, I'm only going to have a field that looks like this, or looks like this. Do you understand? Still a bit lost?
Yeah, a bit lost
Okay.
because I assume that you fill all of these with monsters.
Right. These can only be filled with monsters from the main deck. From your hand. From your hand.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
This is the only zone where a monster from the extra deck can be summoned.
Yep.
Unless you have a link monster
one of those.
who is pointing to zones, meaning that you can put monsters
so
from the extra deck.
if you've got great big monsters in your
thing.
Extra deck,
Yeah.
if you get one of those out,
Yeah.
you can now fill all the, effectively you fill all the spaces with
monsters from the extra deck. You can do that, yeah.
Right.
It is potentially a possibility.
Okay.
So, link monsters are probably the easiest, actually, of all the summoning mechanics to explain. So that's good. You know, there's no overlaying, there's no 2 specific cards, there's none of that. None of the downfalls that Fusion and that have.
Right.
So, we're going to show you a basic Crusader combo, right? So you've got a Crusader monster. What you do is you have a link 1. You can link him away to special summon the link 1.
Okay.
That's it. You just get rid of it. Now, on the link monster, it will tell you specifically what you need to link away. So this one says 1 Crusader monster except for himself. So that's Crusader Leonis. This is a Crusader Maximus. That's a Crusader Draco. So you can basically have one on the field, link it off, boom. Okay?
So you've played him a few times.
I love that card. He's so nice.
Let's see, by the way.
The way the sleeve is a bit worn. Yeah. This is actually my favorite deck we're talking about here. This is my favorite one. So then you can, if you have another monster, you can use a link 1 and a non-link, any non-link. It could be an Xyz, it could be any other monster, to make a link 2.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because
join them together.
You've used 2 monsters to make 1.
Yeah.
So it's a link 2.
Okay.
Right. This is the bit where people do get a bit confused. If I send this one monster and this one monster to the graveyard to link summon, what link rating can I bring out?
Well, you'd only get a 2.
No.
But he's a 2 already.
He's a 2 already. That is the thing, and that's where it gets confusing.
Right.
You can use a link 2 and anything, any non-link, for a link 3.
Right.
You can use a link 3 and any monster
To make 4.
to make a 4. Now in this case you actually couldn't do that, because Avermax stipulates that it has to be 2 monsters from the extra deck.
How do you know it came from the extra deck and not from your hand? I mean, partway through the game, who would remember where it came from?
Because this is never going to come from your extra deck. This is always going to be from the main deck. It's going to be from your hand.
Right. Okay.
Because it's a effect monster,
Yeah.
and they live in the main deck.
Right. Okay.
Extra deck monsters are only ever going to be fusions, synchros, Xyz, or links.
Right. Okay.
Now, pendulums also are potential for extra deck, but that's more complicated.
Okay.
We can talk about that in a bit, but for now, we'll leave them out of it. Okay?
Yep.
So, seeing as it needs to be a monster from the extra deck, let's say we do this. To make into... Now that's a link 1 and a link 3. That is a link 4.
Right.
Okay? Now, you could, theoretically, go a slightly different way about that. You could go a link 2 and a link 2
To give you a link 4.
to give you a link 4. Alright? Simple enough?
I mean, are they that significantly stronger?
Oh, yes.
Oh, right.
They are. They are very, very strong.
I mean, that's only... Oh, I see. It's got 3,000
3,000 attack,
attack.
but its effect is really strong. And, like, often it's the effect that changes the way you would think of a card.
Oh, right.
Because
okay.
if you look at...
Because some of those are quite strong, aren't
Well,
they?
you look at this. This is 0 attack.
Yeah.
His effect, though, is that he makes it so your opponent can't use 3 of their monster zones. That's quite a strong effect. You've shut off half of their field just for having him on the board. He's a weak card, though. He's 0 attack.
Yeah.
So, the effects sometimes are why you play the cards. Not necessarily for the attack power, but for the effect that the card has.
Okay.
For instance, this card, he's strong, but he also has a really good effect, which is he can make it so he can negate spells. Your opponent can't use spells if you have this on the field.
Okay.
Or he can negate spells. So their effects can really come into play. So for this guy, his effect is really, really long and complicated, but it does a lot of good stuff for me. So he's sort of a big boss monster everyone knows about. Another one that everyone seems to be aware of right now is this one, Boral Sword. He can attack multiple times in a turn and things like that.
Oh, really?
So he's again...
But normally, you can only use them once.
You can only
a go.
attack with them once a go, yeah. So we'll get to the actual thing of a turn in a second, but yeah. So that's the extra deck. That's basically everything that comes out of the extra deck except for pendulums. These are 3 different pendulum monsters.
Right.
If I want to play them as a spell, where would I play them?
If you...
So they're pendulums. They can be spells or monsters. So where would I play them if I want?
Come here somewhere.
Right, or here. Okay. And we talked about the scales earlier, where 1 and 8 means I can summon anything between level 2 and level 7.
Yeah.
Correct? So, if this card is in my hand, and I have my scales set up like this, I can do what's called a Pendulum Zone. and I can Pendulum Summon this card from my hand, because it's a level 7, and it's inside of the range. If this card leaves the field, it will go where? If it's to leave the field, where would it go?
Well, it'd have to go to the graveyard, surely.
That's what you would think, and logically that makes sense. But pendulum monsters don't go to the grave.
Alright, okay.
They go face up in the extra deck. Just to make things complicated.
Okay.
Right?
Why?
Because you can pendulum summon them next
So you
turn.
bring them back again.
You can only do it once per turn. You can only pendulum summon once per turn.
Yeah.
But you can pendulum summon from here. And this is why link monsters were invented. This is why this extra monster zone was invented. Because a lot of decks would play a lot of pendulum monsters, fill this up with monsters, and every turn they just bring them all back. And bring them all back, and bring them all back.
Oh, right.
So,
Okay.
link monsters were summoned, because now this monster will have to go here.
Right.
Because it's coming from the extra deck.
Yeah.
But if I had a monster like this that points to this zone and this zone, it can now come here or here. And it's the pendulum summon. It's once per turn. It could be from the hand or from the extra deck.
So you
face
can
up.
do virtually the same thing, surely.
What do you mean?
Well, if you had loads of them in there, you could just keep...
You could, but the thing is, the limitation that this places on the game now means that you can only bring one out at a time, unless you have, because it's coming from the extra deck. Unless you have something that makes a link monster that opens up more zones.
I see. Okay.
So, say I had this, I could summon him, and I could summon another one here. And then I could summon 3 from my hand, if I had 3 in my
So
hand.
if you had an ordinary monster in here,
Right, if I had, let's say, Ojama King,
yeah,
right?
you couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that. This card will be trapped here now, because I can't put it there, and I have no zones for it.
Right. Okay.
So, this is the way the things work right now.
At this point, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you leave us a like, leave us a comment, leave us a subscribe, and keep your eye out on the channel. We will be having some more videos of Learn to Play with Dad, talking about the turns and the phases that go into a turn of a regular game. On top of that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video.